In this 2017 draft class, teams are going to be desperately looking for potential left tackles, potential blindside protectors. And the simple fact of the matter is that draft class is very devoid of talent in that area, very lacking for future NFL left tackles. It's just not a good class. So you're going to have teams looking and teams hoping and wishing and praying. And one of those guys that would seem to fit into the mold of potential left tackles at the NFL level is Garett Bolles from Utah. When you look at Garett Bolles, what really stands out to you on film from a positive standpoint is first and foremost, this kid is an outstanding athlete at the position, like top-notch athlete at his position. And when you think about guys and whether or not they can match up against the best edge rushers in the National Football League, you'd like to have those guys first and foremost with that great athletic base, with the natural footwork and agility and movement skills overall to be able to uh, contain the edge against those edge rushers and also be a threat to block at the second level on the move, in particular in the running game. And Garett Bolles has that in great abundance. He has almost prototypical type of athleticism, in my opinion, anyways, based off of what I saw in film. He has the athleticism and the feet to play left tackle, to play outside at the NFL level. I feel like for a guy with limited experience, especially at a major college level like Bolles, who only played 1 year at Utah, his football instincts for the position are really, really good. He showed me a consistent ability to recognize stunts and blitzes and recognize them early, sometimes before they happen. He also seemed to have a natural feel for getting to the right spot and meeting defenders in the right place, in particular at the second level. And you could seem to say that that would be, a basic fundamental skill that they should have, but not everybody does. People can get to the second level, but they don't always need to know exactly where they need to go, excuse me, and Garett Bolles does. So I really like that. I feel like when you watch him, he's a real try-hard, almost borderline red-ass type of offensive lineman. And let's face it, when you're talking about the big nasties up front, offensive and defensive line, you like guys that play borderline reckless. Not Indomitian Sue reckless, but you like a little bit of reckless, a little bit of fight from the whistle or from the snap to the whistle, sometimes through and after the whistle, and he plays that way. He gives consistent effort. He's a high energy type of guy. He keeps blocking, consistently until the whistle. And like I said, sometimes he'll still be going at it after the whistle. And you like those offensive linemen to play like that because, as much as anybody else, they are real attitude setters for the offense. They are the guys that set a physicality. They set the momentum of the game. And again, Bolles has that in quite a big abundance. I feel like he's an adequately equal pass blocker and run blocker at this stage of his career. He's not great in either area, but neither area is a huge gaping deficiency in his game. He needs to improve and he needs to get better, but he's got a good solid foundation coming into the NFL in terms of his overall skill level as a pass blocker and as a run blocker. So with that natural athleticism, those movement skills, the effort, the fight, and you look at it and you say, okay, why is he not a more highly rated prospect by someone like me? Well, for me, there's a few things. Number one, you look at his size. You're talking about 6'5", 300 pounds ish. He weighed in at 297 at the combine. He's lacking in size. He needs to get bigger. He needs to get stronger. He's got decent length for the position. That's why he'll be able to stick outside at left tackle, in part of my opinion as well. But I don't know if you really want your left tackle in the NFL level playing at 297 pounds. I feel like he could get up eventually to 310, 315 and not lose much in the way of his movement skills. But he's going to need to, because as important as it is to be able to contain edge rushers on the outside and not allow them to beat you and bend the edge, it's equally important to be able to hold up an anchor and drive block in the running game, which he's not very good at in large part, again, because of his overall lack of size and lack of lower body strength. Furthermore, you need to be able to hold up against some bull rushers in pass protection, and that is an area that he could be a little bit vulnerable. I feel like some of his technique is very raw, which you would expect for a guy that hasn't played a lot of college football, frankly, and only played 1 year at a major Division I school at Utah. While he seems to do a pretty good job of keeping knee bend, Sometimes he can get a little high in his pads, but not consistently. His hand usage needs some work. It's inconsistent in terms of the violence with which he makes that initial punch, especially in the running game. Sometimes his hands can be too wide, sometimes they could be too narrow, sometimes they could be too high, sometimes they could be too low. And that hand usage is critical to the success of an offensive lineman. And in particular, in pass protection, it seems like sometimes he's more worried about moving his feet than he is with making that initial move and getting first contact on the defender. Because to me, for my money, it's typically he who gets first contact and plays with the best leverage consistently wins when talking about blocking. And that's something that he struggles with, and it's something he's going to have to get better at. Another major concern for Garett Bolles is the fact that you're talking about a kid that when he gets into the NFL in his rookie year, he's going to turn 25 years of age. He is more than a bit aged for a first round NFL prospect. On top of that, you're not talking about a guy that had a medical red shirt or something and he stayed in college for 5 or 6 years and played several years as a starter on the blind side at a big time program. He played 1 year at a second tier program in Utah, and that was it. So not only is he aged as a prospect, he also doesn't have a lot of experience. So you're thinking about potentially drafting a guy like Garett Bolles in round number one, and you have to wrap your fingers around the fact that he's still pretty raw. And it could take up to 3 years to get everything out of him. And by the time you've gotten to that point, he's already 28 years of age. And now you're thinking about having to extend them long term, whereas you might want to take somebody like a Cam Robinson, let's just say for argument's sake, that's 21 years old. If it takes 3 years to get it out of him, he's still only 24 before you even have to think about giving him that first big contract, whereas Garett Bolles will already be 28 years of age. He's also well documented in terms of the rough childhood that he had, got himself into a lot of trouble. He's calmed himself down. It sounds like he's married. He's got a kid now. And in terms of his reliability on the field, the 1 year he did play at Utah, he was able to start all 13 games for the team. But again, you're talking about an age prospect who needs some serious work on his technique and a guy that has very little experience playing at a major level. That's tough. And when you look at him on film, you could make an argument that, you know, based off of upside and athletic potential, he might have arguably the most upside at offensive tackle in this draft class. I don't agree with that assessment, but he's probably 2 or 3 on the list. But for teams that might grade him out somewhere as a top 10 to 15 type of pick, maybe in that 10 to 15 or 18 range, it has to give them real pause in a draft class that is pretty good. This is not like 2013 where the draft class absolutely sucked. So a team like the Bears gambled on a Kyle Long who was like 24, 25 years of age and only played a few games at Oregon. The risk was different then, even though I didn't like the draft pick and at the end of the day, I had to eat some crow on it. It's still the simple fact of the matter is you look at Kyle Long now, 4 years through his NFL career, he's about to turn 30 pretty soon. So how much more will you really get out of him? And it's appropriate that that's my NFL comparison for Garett Bolles. Now, I've always felt that Kyle Long could play tackle at the NFL level, even though the 1 year he played right tackle, I don't think it went all that particularly well. Part of that to me was the fact that he started off the first few years of his career, enjoyed some success there, and then it was just awkward. He wasn't given like a full off-season mini camp, training camp preseason to get into the flow of being a right tackle. It's like in the middle of training camp, hey, guess what? You're going to play right tackle this year. Each hit like the taste of it. And that's ridiculous. It shouldn't have been like that. But very similar in terms of guys that have tons of athletic potential, very raw, very little experience. Some teams might project in some zone blocking schemes to be even better at guard. I don't think so. Long was bigger, longer, stronger coming out of Oregon than Garett Bolles is out of Utah, but there are definitely some similarities there, especially talking about being an aged prospect with very little experience. For the team's fan base who ultimately probably drafts Garett Bolles in round number one, they're probably hoping he's more like a Kyle Long as an aged prospect on the offensive line and not somebody like a Danny Watkins. Sorry, Eagles fans. Yes, I went there. But his overall grade for me, I have an 86.5. He grades out to me as a mid to late second round type of talent. He's one of the best offensive linemen in this class, but again, that doesn't mean a whole lot because this is not a good class. I do think, however, that he can start on the blind side at the NFL level. I don't know if he'll be a Pro Bowl type of guy, but I think he's a guy that you can stick there for a number of years and you won't always be in a constant cycle of trying to replace him.